right, we're live. Alex, take it away.
All right, everyone, welcome back. The Professional Managers Pod. Alex here, Zach, and then we have DJ Snelten with us as well. You guys may know him from his exceptionally viral bullpens that you see probably once a year that come back up on your feed. DJ is 77 feet tall. He's left-handed, and he has this funky like hip hinge maneuver, and then the ball comes out at 107. So you would also know him from his actual thing that he does now after being a baseball player is ground up development baseball or good baseball. We just got word breaking that they just opened up the facility 3 months ago. They're hosting a prep, or it's a prep like showcase,
prep
right?
Baseball report, PBR.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. PBR showcase coming up. So, I mean, stuff's moving and shaking. Small story. DJ and I actually met years ago. I caught a bullpen for you. Do you remember what it was exactly?
Oh, yeah.
Was it a
It was
camp
off
or
on the side of the field. It was off on the side of the field at Valparaiso.
Yes.
I think my brother
Yep.
was a freshman there when your dad was coaching there.
Yep. DJ grew up in like an hour and a half away from where I grew up in Indiana. He was in Illinois, and his brother was there, and I was just about to leave, and he was like, "Oh, let's throw a bullpen," and I caught a bullpen for DJ. So it's crazy that the world comes back around 5 or 6 years later. One of our other mutual friends who's been on the podcast, Alex Mikalakis, is training with DJ, and he goes, "DJ knows you." And I was like, "Yeah, dude, I haven't heard that name in in a long time." But yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on, DJ, man. Thanks for coming, bud.
It's good to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah. First question. So when you left the University of Minnesota and then you got drafted, the second time you got drafted after you got out of high school, what was the big thing? Like when you got to pro ball, we asked this of most of the guys who, when they first get to pro ball, what was the biggest difference you noticed when you went from playing D1 to getting into the pro scene as far as like pitching side? What did you feel was like the biggest jump or separated guys the most?
I'll be honest. There was a slight regression in competition when you first get into pro ball because you get to rookie ball and it's this composite of 16-year-olds from another country. You got 25-year-olds rehabbing. You got 33-year-olds that are just literally trying to get through the rehab so they can go back to AAA. For me, I think the biggest change in itself was just what the day-to-day routine looked like. I just remember, in college, you had your classes, you'd get there. If you had a game at 7 o'clock, we probably got to the complex at like 4:30 or 5. Whereas if we had a 7 o'clock game in pro ball, I think the first day they told us to get to the complex by 1:30. And I was like, why are we getting there 5.5 hours early? Like, why do we need to do that? What's that about? And so I think that was the biggest thing, was going from that. And I guess the other factor of that too would probably be the location. I was lucky enough to be drafted by the Giants, and that means that we got to go into Old Town Scottsdale a lot. So like being a 21-year-old and then getting dumped out there we had a lot of adventures, a lot of fun with our friends and our teammates. So, yeah.
That's so cool, man. That's great. Yeah. So when you went, like you spent a lot of time, I mean, you've kind of bounced around up and down. You've been in a bunch of different leagues. What was your favorite setting? Like, it doesn't even have to be like true MLB, like pro ball, like continental. What was your favorite like setting, team setting? Like, what did you like the most looking back?
Oh man. Honestly, I loved my time in the Pacific Coast League. I loved AAA. I loved being out in that side of California. Just a lot of really interesting towns to go see, between going to New Orleans at the time, going to, Las Vegas. Sacramento was our home stadium at the time. It was the first league that we actually flew. Now, granted, we took a lot of red eyes, and I got really comfortable with learning how to sleep on a plane at 2:30 in the morning. But yeah, those were just experiences that I felt like they just went by so fast because I was just having so much fun. It was the first time being around a bunch of guys who had a couple of years of showtime, and it's where you really finally start getting mixed in with guys who have just been lifetime minor leaguers, and then guys who have like 7 or 10 years who are trying to make it back. So that was probably the most fun for me. Yeah.
When you were, you're coming towards what might be the end. This is a question that kind of comes from the kids that we train, honestly, because like we'll get back to this, but like your bullpens are viral. A lot of kids see this big lefty ripping 102 in the bullpen. You throw in these pens, and some of these videos I think are old. They just recirculate. But I literally will have kids come up to me and they're like, "Have you heard of this guy?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I have. I know a guy who knows him, right?" And they're like, "Why isn't he in the big leagues?" And I'm like, I don't know, man. There could be 100 answers to that question. So,
Yeah.
what if somebody were to ask you that? Like, hey, man, like you're big, you're left-handed, you can throw 100. What's the reason why a guy like that doesn't auto big league, right? Because I think that the three of us know that like it's not that simple, right?
Yeah.
But you get 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 15-year-olds, they see that and they're like, what? But 100, and so like how would you explain that to a young baseball player?
Well, for starters, I get that question probably 3 times a week. So I've gotten really good at answering this one. And the best answer that I can give for that is that it's like you said, there's 100 reasons. And I'm going to do my best here to not sound like I'm making excuses, but I had quite a stroke of luck from 2020 and on. So I was training at Pitch to Pitch in 2019. I was working and training there and became a strength coach during that time because my brother owns a facility and wanted to help him out when I moved back home after I got done with school. I thought I was honestly retiring in 2019. And as I started getting my certifications, CJ, the owner of the company, was like, "Hey, do you want to make some extra money?" And I was like, "Sure." What I didn't realize what he was asking me was, "Hey, do you want to write programs for 300 players at 3 facilities for $1,000?" And so I got the kitchen sink thrown at me. And this is that moment I told you about. She's gonna. Sorry.
There she is.
Okay.
Hello.
Okay.
Oh, we are dog friendly. We're
dog
dog
friendly.
friendly.
We are dog friendly on this pod. Yeah. So this is her. So anyways, fast forward. I started writing all these systems because I'm, the whole kitchen sink's thrown at me, and I'm like, I got to get real creative if I'm going to help these guys out. And I ended up becoming good buddies with this guy Nick, and I think I'm going on a tangent here, so I apologize. I'll fast forward through all this because this is word soup. I apologize.
No, it's good.
Long story short,
we do the long form.
Yeah,
fair enough. Long story short, did all these things. Was talking to my buddy Nick Sinzeri, who was actually Alex's coach out at not Ohlone, but Mission College, where he went to. We started to piece some things together. Figured out how to throw hard. It was, to be honest, it was kind of by mistake. I thought I was going to throw like 92, 94 after it. Ended up accidentally sitting 98, 99. Went viral for the first time. Pitching Ninja shared it, and that's how I got signed by the Rays. Now, This is where that stroke of luck starts to come in, right? I was in Group 1, Major League Spring Training. I think I was leading the team in innings out of the pen. I had like 10 innings in the first 2.5 weeks. So they were like, we got to keep looking at this guy because he's got a 1 ERA and he's punched out like 16 guys in 10 innings. Like, who is this guy? March 16th rolls around, COVID happens. World shuts down. Momentum kind of gets reset. Go out to the alternate site. It just doesn't match up. 2021, I show up with the Cubs, end up getting Tommy John surgery. Like, don't even get to throw an inning at spring training. Problem is, I didn't know I needed the surgery because nobody kind of told me. And got all the way to the end of the summer, threw in front of the Brewers, and they were like, well, that was impressive. You sat 96 to 98.5 with the torn UCL. And I was like, what are you talking about? And they were like, yeah, you've been blown out since February. You didn't know this? So, Tammy, come on. Anyways, missed a couple years because of that. And then I think the biggest reason why I didn't make it, and I got to be more honest with myself, is, okay, those eyes are really distracting. Okay. 2023 rolls around, and I hate this word, but I got to say it. Nobody warned me coming back from Tommy John that the last piece of the puzzle is your control. Because you're just so focused on feeling healthy and surviving the throw, and you're not thinking about actually playing the game anymore because you just went through something pretty traumatic. And so my walks went up. And on top of that, we were messing with grips and seams and trying to find a miracle for not walking 10.5 guys per 9. And half the season goes by, and eventually I get let go. I figure it out in indie ball, go to the Angels, pitch really bad at the wrong time during the day of getting released. I get released. I go to Mexico, pitch really well there. End up getting released out there. Long story short, the manager and the president of the team got in an argument, and they wanted to make an example out of who was in charge, and I just happened to be the byproduct of that decision. Last day of spring training this year with the White Sox, strained my oblique. So just
You're like preaching to the choir, man, because this is so for me. Same thing as you, DJ. I got done, right? Played a little bit after, got done with graduate school. And all of a sudden, I made a big velo jump, and I'm just playing amateur baseball, right?
Yeah.
Tear my UCL, and then since then, it's just like this nickel and dime. Like you just can't get all of it lined up, right? And then now it doesn't matter. I'm 33. Like, who cares? Like it's Zach.
Mhm.
But when I was kind of coming back and I was like, my velocity was coming up, Zach goes, "You're going to go play independent ball?" And I was like, "For what reason?" I was like, "What am I going to
Yeah.
do with that?" Like it's fun, but like
Mhm.
that is the one thing so like for me, I do tons of returns to throws, like rehabs, those kinds of things, right?
Of
One
course.
of the biggest things is you come back and it is the like you lose the touch, that feel, because you're really focused on just feeling good systemically. But the biggest
Yes.
thing
That's it.
is the ball coming out of your hand directionally is like the most important thing in baseball. The feel of the ball, like how the seam comes out of your hand. And that's such an astute way to think about like, how the momentum shifts or how it changes after you get injured. It's not just feeling good. It's also you lose that because you're off for so long, you lose that thing that you've had a touch for
Yeah.
25 years leading up to that point. So yeah,
No,
that's good
exactly.
to know.
It's like I said, it's like surviving the throw. And I think from that and the combination of I hadn't played in an affiliated game since 2019. My first game was 2023. It felt like I was putting the stresses of 4 or 5 seasons into one single season. So it felt like every outing counted for 6 of them. Like I had to make up for lost time. I kind of got out of the mental state. And again, it sounds like I'm making a lot of excuses. At the end of the day, like baseball is somewhat of a meritocracy, and sometimes it's the right place, right time. And if I'm being honest with myself, I got called up in 2018 because I just happened to be on the 40 man, and we had a bunch of surgeries that went down, and doubleheader happened, and we burned 7 arms in the first game. So like, a lot of it is right place, right time. And so when players ask me, they're like, you're throwing 100 miles an hour from the left side. Why aren't you in the big leagues? And it's like, there's a lot of reasons. There's just a lot
Yeah.
of reasons, and that's
There's just
okay.
more. Yeah, there's so much more to being good than just that, right? And there's two things that your story and so many guys' stories really highlight for me. Is one, the role of luck. There's so much luck to making it in sports, being in the right place, right organization, right system, right timing, not being behind a certain guy, right? Like I had a college teammate that got drafted, got signed to the Dodgers, and he's a right-handed pitcher in the Dodgers organization, and he's a former D2 player, and all of our guys in our network are like, "Oh, that's so sick. He's playing for the Dodgers." And I'm like, "No, it's not. It is bad. He needs to be in a different organization ASAP because he's going to get stuck. He's behind $250 million of payroll. You think they're going to call up the D2 guy? Like, he has to be so unequivocally good for them to move him up and supplant one of their, like, he's in the wrong place at the wrong time right now, and he ended up getting to a different place and was able to pitch in the big leagues for the Brewers and the White Sox because those are the right places at a better time.
Are you talking about Gus Varland?
I am, yeah. I'm talking about
I
Gus,
met him
right?
this year. He's a great guy.
Yes, him
Yeah.
and Louis both are just tremendous guys, the best
Yeah.
guys, right? So
Yeah.
Gus, I mean, everybody's stoked that he's playing for the Dodgers because the Dodgers are awesome. But he's a great pitcher, but you're gonna get stuck. You're behind Kershaw and Darvish and I think Darvish was there at the time, and like it's not a good situation for a guy who is trying to grind his way through a minor league system.
No, you're
And
absolutely
people
right.
don't get that.
I will say this, depending on who's working in the front office, there is this fascinating psychology of when guys get drafted in later rounds from D2 or D3 schools, some front offices, and this happened with the Giants a lot too, is they'll just throw you in the fire. They're not going to spend 5 years developing you. They're going to see what they got. Are you going to be a flash in the pan, or can you just flat out play the game and you just didn't play at the level that usually gets the exposure that you need? There was a guy I played with like 9 years ago. His name was Ryan Lawless, and I think he was like a 35th or 36th round. He was a late rounder. There was a single season where he went like low A to high A, triple A, double A, back to triple A, and became a big leaguer all in the same season because he just flat out hit like 350 at every level. Because they were like, well, all right, we got to give him a shot. All right.
Yeah.
There we go. So
She's back. She's persistent.
Tammy.
See, that's
Her name's
the other
Tammy,
thing.
by the way.
That's such a great name.
Tammy
for
the
a
Wiener
dog.
Dog. That's
Yeah, it's Tammy the
phenomenal.
Wiener Dog.
So that's the other thing that I take away from that story is like people don't realize like how huge it is to just be consistently good and consistently healthy. You know, like the Justin Verlanders of the world are so incredibly rare. And
Yes.
people, sports fans, kind of take it for granted, where you think like, oh yeah, just be insanely good and stay healthy until you're 40. Like that. I mean, we are three guys in our early 30s, and all three of us, I think, probably have some feeling like we aren't what we used to be in some ways, right? And now add another decade to that at the highest possible level, and just appreciate how incredibly rare that is. And being good and going out and performing in the game settings as a hitter or as a pitcher, you know, there's so many young athletes that get satisfied with what I call being good in theory. You know, like a guy who can throw 100 miles an hour is like theoretically really good at baseball, but he's not playing real baseball yet in those videos that you see.
No,
and
you're
so
absolutely
to your
right.
point, like you see your walks go up just a tick, like 10.5 walks per 9 versus like 6 walks per 9. That's a tick and a half for sure. But like, that's the difference, you know?
That's a big time tick. Yeah.
Yeah. We don't do public math. We don't do public math.
Yeah. But, you know, and nobody really appreciates that when you're watching sports on TV. You kind of take it for granted.
For sure. No, absolutely. You're absolutely right about that. And actually, I was lucky enough to go out to, in October, I went out to, and I don't know if the name's going to ring a bell or not, the Natural Ball Player out in Seattle.
Yeah.
I went and had a visit with him, and he's a Minnesota native who moved out there. And, you know, again, what a great example, because I've seen that guy just show up on my feed all the time out of nowhere, flicking the easiest 98 you've ever seen in your life. And it's just like, oh man, you got to go play. You got to go do this, right? And, you know, sometimes it's okay to just like chase excellence and do what you got to do in terms of performance and show the next generation how it's done. And kind of similar to what you said, like the thing that fascinates me about the 43-year-olds, like the legends that are playing this game right now, is that like I threw a bullpen yesterday where for, 25 pitches, just messing around, was able to sit 96, 99 or something like that. I wake up today with crazy low back pain. I'm struggling to bend over to feed my dog in the morning. I'm like, oh, this is terrible. Like, why am I still doing this to myself if I'm not playing baseball? And then I think about like the 43-year-olds doing. I'm like, man, I cannot imagine what it feels like to be in Clayton Kershaw's body right now. Like, I can't imagine it.
Dude, I mean, those guys are. This was, kids think this. You work with a lot of young kids. They're like, oh, if they have any hint of pain or soreness or stiffness, they shut it down. And you go, do you think that is what high level sport is? Like, do you think that you think you're going to be able to go through a college season and not have pain? Or you're going to be able to, and pain relatively, right? We're not talking exorbitant pain. We're talking like 2s and 3s. Like we're talking stiffness and soreness,
It's so funny that you said that, because yesterday I literally said the phrase pitching is pain management and mental toughness. Like I literally said 100%. This to a player yesterday. He comes in and I'm just looking at his posture and I see that the front of his shoulder, like the glenohumeral is just rounded forward, pec shortened. And I'm like, okay. So I go up to him like, hey, check this out. And I like lightly press his pec and he immediately goes,
yeah.
And then I go down to the bicep and I'm like, does this hurt? And I grab his bicep. He just falls to the floor. Like he just lays on the ground. I barely touched him. And I'm like, you've never experienced pain. Oh,
You're gonna have a hard life, son.
News, buddy. Like I looked at him. I was like, you just PR'd. Like I'm not kidding. By like this is an outfielder actually, not a pitcher. Or by the way, he went from like 76 to 89. Super talented kid. Just had no direction with throwing whatsoever when we first started. We like go to grab his bicep, and I'm just like, welcome to throwing hard. Throwing hard is pain. You don't get away with this ever. It is a universal truth of the sport.
Yeah,
100%.
When we had Alex on the pod a while back, he had a line that I thought was really funny and astute. We were talking about like Division I baseball and high level pitching, and he's like, I don't remember exactly how we phrased the question. It must have been like, what's something people don't realize? And he goes like, well, nobody feels good.
Like no, that's so true. No one ever feels good.
Nobody feels good, and you just do what you can, right? And we had Louis on, and we were looking up his workload. We had him on in like, Alex, was it August?
Yeah, it was right when
before
he
the
was
playoffs.
Dude, it was
It
like
was right at the end of the regular
Jays,
season.
So Twins had him, and then he got traded to the Blue Jays, Gus's younger brother. And then literally they had him in the game, every game, for like 2 weeks straight. And he just goes, yeah, sometimes before games, I don't even play catch. I just get on the mound and get hot. He's like,
we were like,
I
go, your workload, you've got 37 appearances in the last 5 weeks. Like, how's your arm? And he goes, well, I'm hanging in there.
Yeah.
So,
well, this, DJ, like you get far enough in, you know how many bullets you have, and you're like, okay, I know I need to go out and do X today. So I need to figure out how to save all of what I got for that. Right. And it's the age old of this is like training at a high level. This is the same thing. So Zach and I have this conversation a lot because you see guys. So you're a good example. Natural ball players are a really good example. There's a bunch of guys that are at your facility and at Tread that are coaches that still throw. I'm coming off an injury, but I still try and throw at a high level as often as possible, like open the taps, try and feel things, right? We talk about with like pitching doctors, another guy, right? But you see all these guys you're trying to push this envelope, right? And like show that sustainability is like a training philosophy. And then you have to also be honest on the back end with the kids that you're working with, the young ones, like you said with that outfielder. They go, dude, I'm so sore. And you go, this is like the first time you deadlifted 400 pounds. Your body is in total chaos. Your brain is just trying to salvage and grasp onto anything it can to survive. You're lucky you're full of stem cells. Like, this doesn't change. Like, as you get older, this doesn't change. Every single time you every single time you put your foot all the way down, your body's always going to freak out. That's just how it goes. And they go, yeah, well, that's sad. I'm like, this is life.
This is literally the game.
Yep. And this is how you know you're alive.
Nobody tells you about. And that's why, like, sometimes you'll see this shtick from coaches in the remote industry, and I always chuckle because I'm like, they'll be like, I teach players how to throw hard with no pain. And it's like, what are you defining as hard?
Yeah. Or what are you defining as no pain?
I promise you, if you get them where they're trying to be, they're going to feel pain in some capacity. It's either going to be their shoulder tightens up or their pec is tight or the outside of their shoulder hurts or their triceps lit. Like, I'm not saying that it's impossible, but to like have that shtick be like, I do this for all my players. It's like, let's be a little more realistic and let's stop lying to the audience. Because like, I tell every player before they on-ramp, I'm like, listen, this is the off season. I want you to understand what the stress adaptation cycle is. You're going to PR. You're going to be stiff. You're going to regress for 10 days. It is not your identity. You just got there. Like, let's establish what that is. Like, you touch 90 for the first time. You're not a 90-mile-an-hour thrower. You're still an upper 80s guy who's going to regress to like 86 to 87 for maybe a couple weeks. And then we're going to break that threshold and figure out how to make that your floor. Whenever I see a coach like talk about like, I train safe and healthy throwers, I'm just like, come on.
Well, this is like, I think there's so much value in, if you are working with throwers, you need to be throwing. Like you have to touch the mound, you have to touch the slope, and you have to do it at a high level because you need to be experiencing these things. Like if like, no shade to anybody, but if you've never, like, this is a great example. Zach will get on the mound once a year and throw 88 to 89. And then he won't touch the mound for a year.
Yeah, my arm hurts for 8 weeks after.
But it's in there, and it's showing that there is like this ability to generate force, right? And that showing that you're like, I'm in this with you. I still do this. This is part of it. I feel what you feel. This is not shade. Like if you've never thrown over 84 miles an hour and you're like, I'm going to teach guys to throw pain-free. You've never moved fast enough to be in pain.
Absolutely. That's it. Yeah. That's it. No, and it's funny because so my brother's, he's closing in on 40 now. He'll be 40 next month. And he still does this at the building. He almost never throws. He'll mess around sometimes, and he'll throw in like the, whatever they're called, the hey dudes, like the slip-on shoes.
Oh, yeah. And
these kids will be running their mouth, calling him like an old wash-up or something like that. He basically created like a Sandlot situation in his training place, and I love it. And he'll grab a baseball, and he'll make like 8 or 9 throws, and then out of nowhere, he'll just 89.2, 90.6, and then he'll just stare down the kid and not say a word and just walk and go back to training people. Like he won't do anything. He won't do arm care. He just rips a 90 at 39 years of age. Hasn't played in a competitive game in probably 15 years. And I'm just like,
I love that. That's
you know
awesome.
how easy this shit is for me?
He literally said that. I'm not even kidding. He's like, sometimes I forget how good of athletes we are because like this shit comes easy.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that's kind of the mindset you need though.
Here's the thing.
But it's also, hold on.
That can sometimes be.
Yeah, go ahead, Zach.
It can sometimes be a little bit of a detriment if you're super gifted as a coach and you're like, why can't they just do it? Because I could do it without trying so goddamn hard. And I also think the pain thing, like when you do have years under your belt of throwing, your 3 becomes 0 basically. And I think the people sometimes aren't intentionally being disingenuous. They just forget that like pain free for them isn't pain free for like a kid who's first experiencing that, and they're like pain free, and it's like, like that doesn't hurt. What do you mean? That's just intensity. That's just what it feels like to have the ball come out of your hand.
Yeah,
you know?
It's the stress adaptation, right? Like your brain is going to adapt as you force it to move further and further and further down that line. Which is this is a question I really wanted to ask you. I was telling Zach about this. I've been excited. So 102 off the mound, right? Like that. What is that? So Zach said that he saw an interview from a long time ago. There's a powerlifter that squats like 1,000 pounds, right? And someone's interviewing this powerlifter and he goes, what's it like to squat 1,000 pounds? And the guy, total knob, looks at the kid and goes, what's it like for when you squat 650? You know, like saying it's the same for you. But in baseball and in golf, like when you watch a projectile leave, Zach said this astutely, you leave your hand or come off the club face and it just accelerates. That feedback of watching something come out of your hand and like go. What is it like when the ball, like just that hunt, like, because I feel like there's a threshold, right? There's thresholds in velocity. You know, it's like 89 to 91, 92-ish kind of is the same. 92 to 94-ish is about the same. But then like once you get like 96 plus and you're seeing 96 plus come out of someone's hand, that visual acuity is different. I've never seen 100 plus in person. What does it feel like when the ball, like that spin out of your fingers? Is there a tactile difference between like 98 and 102? Or is it all kind of a blur? Describe that to like people like us who've never thrown 100 miles an hour.
I'll do my best to describe it because what you already said kind of hits the nail on the head a little bit. But I remember the first time that I touched 102, it was in an indie ball game. It was in Lake Country.
Could you imagine?
I just remember the reason why I was going that hard that day was because one of my brother's pitching coaches was playing for that team. And I knew that he was telling other people about the situation. And I was like, I can't come in limping in front of this coach. I'm in the same league as this guy that's been coaching for my brother for a couple of years. And I need to just like be an absolute dude. I think I punched out 6 guys in 2 innings that day. And I remember I was facing this guy, and I remember the second it left my hand, I'm thinking, like, yeah, it felt really good. It came off the tips of the fingers the way that I wanted to. The feedback that I got wasn't even the radar gun yet. It was the fact that this guy swung 120%, and he was almost falling over trying to keep up with it. Like, there's just a different effort of level that has to be matched when it comes out of your hand. Like, I always tell people, don't look at the shapes on the TrackMan sometimes. Look at the feedback from the hitter. Because that's the only thing that matters at the end of the day when it comes to competing versus gamifying your quality of arsenal. And I just remember him like falling backwards, trying to like stay back and get to it. And I was like, oh, that had to be firm. And I looked at the radar gun on the board and it said 102. And I was like, dope. That's cool. Like, that's cool.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's so sick. That is.
We were
that's
joking
awesome.
that like there's got to be a threshold of velocity where the ball hits the glove before you're all the way done following through with your arm. You know, like that's kind of the thing. Yeah. Like if you throw 86, it kind of feels firm coming out of your fingertips, right? Because it's like
you're definitely better at fielding your position at 86. I'll just say that. You're definitely better at fielding your position.
But you've got time. You finish your follow through, and then you can like, I'm ready, and then it hits the glove, right? Where if I'm throwing 100. Yeah, it's out of my hand and it's hitting the glove before I'm all the way followed through, and it's a different animal.
It is. Cool. No, it really is. And I just remember because I have that unique experience. When I got called up to the big leagues, my average fastball was 87.6. So like I remember what it felt like to like be in a fielding position because I'm throwing 87.6 against guys like Reese Hoskins. I better be ready to field my position because I don't want to die.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
versus like you're putting everything out there, you're finishing, it's 98 to 100. Like, yeah, you're like your backside lat's probably finishing more towards the pitch. It's not so much spinning off as this is actually clearing the throw. So you're probably not in the world's best fielding position. You're hoping to take one off the butt cheek rather than the back of the head in that situation.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I want to call one thing out that Alex said as like a throwaway comment that I did just like, I was like, wait, that's kind of crazy. So he's never seen 100 in person. Neither have I. We both have been working. We've been in baseball our entire lives. We've been working with baseball players as coaches our entire adult lives. We've been, with the exclusion of sitting in the stands and being far away and seeing it at a major league game, neither of us have seen 100 miles an hour in person close up. That's crazy. Like that's, again, fans take this stuff for granted. You watch baseball on TV and you're super jaded. Like it feels like every guy that you see on TV is throwing like 97 to 100 and they just assume that that's common. Like it's not at all. We haven't even seen anybody doing that up close.
Well, a good example is when right before your brother was at Valpo, there was a guy named Justin Craker. Justin Craker was short dude, like 5'10", 5'11", pitched at Valpo for 4 years, and then got drafted by the Padres. He sat 100 to 103. I was just a kid,
at
right?
Valpo?
Yeah, couldn't throw a strike to save his soul. I mean, like literally,
he
like
threw 103 in 2004. Who cares?
Yeah, it was crazy, dude. It was, I mean, so like he got drafted and they brought him up and down, up and down, up and down. But I remember being in the cage and listening to the ball come out of his hand. Like I can't remember the concept of seeing it, but I just remember the difference in the sound. It was crazy. But yeah, that's one guy in the entire 20 years that my dad was at Valpo that threw it, through that kind of velocity, right? And then we talk about it. You're in Chicago. How many kids do you have access to that 40 minutes from your facility?
Millions? Gosh. Yeah, millions. Yeah.
Yep. And we, like for us, Minneapolis is smaller. We probably have 350,000 kids within the 25-minute radius of our facility, right? There are 6 legit mid-90s arms, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
For sure. I mean, the first two that come to mind were Gus and Louie. Louie for sure throws fuzz.
Yep.
But part of the reason they're such an interesting case is they came into college throwing mid-80s, low.
Yeah, even. I remember. Yeah.
And so they developed at the appropriate time. And that's the other thing. Kids are in such a hurry to try to be a finished product at 17 or 18. They think they need to be throwing 96 in high school to be good.
That's partially the game's fault because, the way that the MLB draft has changed so much in the last 5 years, there is a sense of urgency. When I got drafted, there was 40 rounds. When I got drafted out of high school, there was 50 rounds. Now there's 20. They've cut that. And on top of that, there's only 165 domestic roster spots available when there used to be 235. So you take 70 spots over 30 teams, it's 2,100 jobs lost. You know what I mean? So like, there is this pressure cooker of like, I need to be a finished product now, because what's going to happen if I'm not a finished product and I don't go to a Power 4 school is I'm either going to accept $5,000 from somebody my senior year, or I'm going to have to go the indie ball route. So like, I understand their feelings. I always try to tell people, like, if you're good enough, they'll find you. The trade-off is that you could play at a D3, you could play at a JUCO right now. If you're good enough with social media presence and just frequent exposure and you stay healthy, you will be found.
Yeah.
You'll be found.
I think
so pick the place that's going to let you play.
Define good enough, because I do think like we tell kids that, I think all of us kind of give that message, like just go be really good and they'll find you. And I think sometimes it gets lost in translation what really good actually means.
So for me, really good, depending on what your entry is, right? So like I always tell guys, because I've helped probably, and it's kind of cool to look back at this as someone who doesn't work at like a Tread or something like that. I've probably helped about 50 guys sign professional contracts in the last 6 years now, affiliate and indie ball, actually a couple Mexico as well. And I always ask, like, what level are you trying to get into? And they're like, oh, I'm trying to play in the Pioneer, the Frontier, American Association. And I'll always have like these prerequisites, like, okay, listen, you've topped 92. If you're trying to play in the American Association, realistically, you should be living 90 to 93 right now and be able to throw a strike. Also, you need to be able to bounce back, because if you're going to play in that league, if you're going to play in any indie ball league, there is no development safety throttle of you're only going to throw twice or 3 times a week. It's like he's going to come to you every single day and ask you, how are you feeling? And if you don't have the, the control to say, not good, coach, you're in there. You're just in there. So defining what good enough is, it's usually understanding the raw metrics of it. So like, because they're like, the art of the 84-mile-an-hour guy getting drafted just isn't there anymore. That doesn't happen unless you throw submarine or something like that. It just doesn't happen. So to get drafted, I always tell guys, like, you either need to be under 2 walks per 9 and be an absolute dude on the mound at 90 to 92, or you probably need to be 93 to 96 with a pitch that's considered to be anomalous or unusual. Because it's like there's so many, like, I don't want to say there's so many dudes out there that are throwing hard. The frequency has certainly changed. Like 94 is the new 90, is what I always tell people.
Mm-hmm.
94 in the zone will get you a job somewhere.
Yeah.
Don't know where. It's going to get you a job somewhere, though, because if you can throw that for strikes and rather than just control but command it, you're going to play the game.
I mean, we even talk about this because you do the same thing as us. We develop tons of like high school guys, right? And these high school guys comes through and they're like, yeah, I'm the man in my high school at 88 to 90. I'm like, yeah, but you don't do anything that exceptional. Like there's nothing that you do that well. Like we have a couple guys that ended up at D2s that are like, they're studs. Like they have same thing, anomaly shaped pitches. Their delivery's just different enough and they're competitors, but they end up at a D2 because they need more time. Like they need more time to develop. And that is the downfall, like you said, of the current way that professional baseball works. It is not like it used to be. You can't get in and wait 4 years to where you become a man. Because think about it, how much better were you at the game when you hit, even if you were playing or not, like understanding just how you move at like 26 versus when you were 21.
Oh my God. I would like look back at how I pitched when I was 21. And I'd like laugh at myself.
Yeah. 100%.
I would also realize when I was 21, like my junior year at Minnesota, you could get away with like the 0-2 fastball, top of the zone, 0-2 curveball, tunnel off that. Like you could do the AB like rudimentary like tunneling, and everybody would fall for it because we were 20 to 21-year-olds with egos thinking we were hot shit, right? When you're 25, 26 in AAA and you got dudes that have 5,000 big league at bats, you can't get away. Like you sometimes could get away with it, and the only reason why you would get away with it is because hitters would be like, there's no way he's going to come at me with the world's most common like pitching sequence. He's not. And then you get him, he goes, oh, damn it, he really did that.
He did it. Yeah. He did it. Well, that was my college career. I was 88 to 91, and I would throw like in hitters counts. I would just throw what I call like a BP fastball. I would just throw like an 84 mile an hour. I'd just be like, here you go. And it's can of corn every time because the hitter isn't good. The hitter's not good.
There's this running joke that you'll see in baseball a lot. There's no better pitch than the top rail slider or changeup because it's just there for so long that it looks like a cookie. Or they just lay off and at the very last second it just goes boop.
Yep.
Because they're like, oh,
like, good to me.
So I was especially guilty of that as a hitter against left-handers. That like kind of like curveball
floating
top of the zone.
One at the top zone. You're like,
I'd give up on it every time.
You're like, that pitch was so bad that it was good.
Yeah, all the time.
That's
man.
electric.
Yeah.
That is, I think that's, I want to ask, you were still playing pro ball when you started your online stuff. What was like the genesis of that? How did you transition into being like, okay, there's a need? Was it like, you were like, I need to find more money. I need to make more money so that I can sustain a living. Or was it just like, this needs to be done, I'm going to do it? How did it start?
It was a combination of both. I needed to make money. So I started it right around the end of 2019. I started it as like a passion project. The reason why it started was when I had made that velo jump in 19 into 2020, I had been talking with Nick Sanzeri for 6 months. The way that I met with him, I remember, and this name might be a blast from the past, but I was at Tom Windle's townhouse at the time in Maple Grove. And I saw this guy posting these drills on Twitter. And I just got done with indie ball. I just won American Association Pitcher of the Month, and my phone did not ring a single time. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm up here, I'm curious, something's got to change. And I just see this guy posting away. So I text him out of the blue, and I'm like, hey, here's a video of me pitching in Lincoln. I know you're a busy guy. I would appreciate any feedback that you have. Could you take a look at this and tell me what you're seeing? And he actually messaged me back within like 30 minutes, and he just goes, bro, you're dog shit with your legs. If you learned how to use them even a little bit, you would throw 100. And I'm like, I have no money in my bank account. I'm taking 18 credits. I'm working 30-hour weeks at pitch to pitch. Screw it. Let's ride. Let's see what happens. And so we started talking. I put away the radar gun and took out the video camera, and I threw, and I'd go, that's it. That's the rep. I'd go back and watch the video and I'd go, nope, that's not even close to what I'm trying to do. Like, it took me probably 3 months of repatterning and frustration and wanting to throw my phone and like stop throwing before a day in early December that year, I was moving. I felt like something had clicked. I went back and watched the video, and I was like, I don't hate the way this looks. And Wendell actually happened to be with me at the time because he was also working there. And I just bought a pocket radar, and I was like, hey, do me a favor, hold this. Let's see what happens. And I make my first warm-up throw, and I'm thinking it's going to be like 89. And he just goes, do it again. I was like, okay. So I make another throw, and he goes, 96. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, 96. So I make another one, it's 95. And I was like, this thing sucks. Go get a stalker. And it ended up being like 5, 6, 5, 6, 6.8. And I was like, I've never been above 95. So I was like, all right, I guess I'm just in better shape than I thought. And then 7 days later, we turned it around and sat 97 to 100. And I remember sitting in my car that night. It was one of those particularly cold nights. It was like negative 15. And I remember just sitting there waiting for the car to warm up. And I'm thinking, like, I've worked with my brother for so long, and my brother is so smart, but we never challenged our house of thought. It was always the same type of thinking. So we got stuck as the same type of athlete. And the breakthrough that Nick and I had made was we got into a really deep discussion about hockey. And he said, isn't it, like, I remember him just saying, isn't it fascinating? These guys stand on an unstable surface. They have steel blades that run vertically underneath their feet. And in order to move forward in a really fast manner, they have to push left or right to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, yeah, at the end of the day, that's just a rapid sequencing of hip adduction and abduction and understanding how the pelvis moves.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I remember, like, I switched everything up in my training. We went from doing sprint work to I started doing slide board for cardio. I started to do things that were way more specific to the things that I sucked at. And that's when it changed. So we actually had to de-pattern what baseball was to us, and we started looking at hockey players. We started looking at how other athletes accomplished the task at hand. And then once we did all that, and I know this is a long answer, that's when I was like, I never met Nick. I never saw him in person. I never had him coddle me through the throw. I never had him stop me and show me, and grab my arm and show me where to go. It was verbiage. It was communication. He was consistent with responding to me. And I realized remote training, it's not a scam. It's actually an incredibly beneficial byproduct if you are an athlete that can be autonomous, be accountable for your own development and not blame other people when it doesn't work out, and have to be innovative. Like, you just have to find ways to get things done, because I could be the smartest guy in the room. If I start talking to you about advanced nuances of anatomy and you don't understand a word I'm saying, it's eyewash. There's no reason. There's no reason to even try this, because if you don't understand it, it's irrelevant. So you got to get creative, to simplify it. It's not about understanding torsion and understanding back hip external rotation. It's telling a kid, hey, listen, I want you to imagine that you put a Post-it note or a ping pong ball on the back hip, and now you're going to try to hide that ping pong ball from the catcher as long as you possibly can. And then when you're ready to go, you're going to try to rotate and drive that ping pong to the catcher. That's it. And then you'll see the kid and he'll go, oh, okay, got it. And then it clicks. Right?
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah. Couldn't agree more. I think both of us, every now and then we'll have a guest on that explains something. Both Alex and I are just going like, we're like smitten.
This guy gets it.
Yeah, that was excellent. Yeah. And so, like, what you were doing that as like a side project, kind of, while your main thing was, I'm a player.
Yeah.
How much did it grow? How much did it, like, how much time did you put into like making it a big business, or was it just like, hey, as long as I can make a difference with some kids and make some money to support and pay my bills? Like, what was your mindset around the whole project in and of itself? Like after you got started with it and you were starting to do it through over the years of while you were still playing full time.
Are you talking about like the timeline of expansion on it?
Yeah, like, well, and not just the timeline, but also like your attitude and like, was when you started it, were you thinking like, okay, I'm going to build this big business and this is going to be what I do for a living after baseball? Or was it, hey, this is what I'm doing now and we'll see what happens?
It was a segue that turned into a living. So it was originally, this is a good way for me to make some money. And this was, remember, this was the time of year where we had been getting those stipend checks or something like that. I had just been let go by the Rays at the very end of the year. So between honestly, like I ended up having to go on unemployment because of some surgery stuff too. I learned some ways to try and survive because like I was just trying to figure out what came next. I had no idea. I was trying to finish school. I didn't have the money to even attend school. Like I withdrew my entire 401k just to pay for food when I went to Minnesota. Like that's where I was at. So I took this chance where I set up the business. I understand which softwares I wanted to use because they were what Nick and I used to get things going. And there were softwares that I used when I was in the race system or the Cubs system. And I remember the first call that I got. I had set up this funnel of like, this is how you reach me. If you want to work with me, this is what we'll do. And I didn't pick up this number because I thought it was a spam call. And then I heard the voicemail and I was like, who is Eduardo? Who is this guy? So I call him back and he's like, you do remote training, right? And I was like, yes, yes, I do. And I ended up working with him and his brother, and he went from like 78, 82 to 91 and a half and went from like no schools to a D1 down in Texas. And I remember that was the confidence that I needed to go, I can do this. Like, I know I can help people. I know that I can think outside the box and speak in a language that can be understood by many. Because that's the big thing, right? Because as we know, like remote training is becoming a saturated market of 22-year-old college graduates that think they know how to coach. I don't mean to knock them, but like, you got to wear your lumps. If I were to go back to in time to when I was giving lessons at 22 at my brother's facility and where we were working before he even opened, I would want to punch myself for the things that I was teaching people.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you just have to go by trial by fire and figure out what resonates with people and what is too advanced to try and teach in one session. Oh, I remember at that moment, I think one went to three. So I had three clients, and that was enough for me to pay my phone bill, to pay my half of the rent with who I was dating with who I was dating at the time. And I remember going, you know what? If I'm going to make this move faster, I need testimonials. So I started doing leg work, and I reached out to like 10 different pro dudes. I'm like, I'm going to train you for free this offseason. I just need your testimonial. So I ended up doing like 6 months of programming for a dude from the Cardinals, from the Braves, from the White Sox, the Rockies. I had trained a bunch of dudes, and all of them made pretty marginal gains. But here's the thing is when you're working with pro guys, you're putting in 15 hours of equity for a 1.5% energy gain, right? Mm-hmm. So if 90-92 becomes 91-94, that's considered a pretty successful offseason for pro guys. And so the majority of those guys made that jump. And I got their testimonials. Like, this took all the guesswork out of my work. You know, this was a game changer for me. One of the guys went from 90-92 to 96-98 and a half, a guy named Joey Marciano. And so I got that testimonial. And like all of a sudden I was able to start pubbing that. And then I remember I was doing a series like 6 years ago. I know this is long-winded. I'm so sorry.
You're good. This is why we're here. Keep going.
I started to do the series, and I'm actually going to bring it back now that I'm not really trying so aggressively to play. But I remember doing this post. It was my first one that went viral, and it was called Your Hips Suck series. So like I would do this thing, and I was like, your hips suck. And the words would like show up like this. And then I would go through like a 5-part kin stretch series to show people how to actually like eliminate it. And I remember waking up the next day, and I think I gained like 2,500 followers out of nowhere. And I was like, what just happened? And it had like 1.2 million views. And I was like, all right, cool. And then as soon as I reached like the 2,000 follower threshold, it went from like one call a month. So like, I think like 4 to 6 calls a week where people are like, you're new. this is exciting. We've never seen you and you're showing up out of nowhere. What are you all about? So then I got to like share all of these stories that I've just shared with you about like going from 87 to 100. And that gave me credibility because I wasn't always the talented 100-mile-an-hour arm in college or the early stage of pro ball. I had to learn how to throw 100 when I was 28. So that kind of helped as a qualifier to show people that it is teachable.
Yeah.
We don't know what everyone's ceiling is because we don't dare to try and reach it until somebody pushes us to do it. But I think that was the timeline for that. It probably took a year and a half to go from making a few bucks here and there to like, I can actually start to move forward in life with this.
Yeah. So why, if online training can be a really good business and it's super scalable, right? Like you could have lots of athletes that you're working with and it doesn't take as much time per kid. You have this funnel. Why go and also do in person? Is that a business move or is that I just want to kind of thing?
I'll be honest, it's both. As we all know, baseball is a very volatile career path. And I'm married now. We just bought a house in Libertyville. There's only so many years in your life that you can chase this dream without putting the people you love around you at, in dispositions. And that's exactly what I've been doing to my family. And it's a hard reality to face. But when you're 33, 34, and you have a cup of coffee in the big leagues and 12 years of minor league ball, it's like, I'm not going to you can't keep doing this. You just can't keep doing it. Like there's no way around that reality.
Yeah.
So I've been doing the remote thing for 6 or 7 years, and I work really hard with my athletes and I give them the resources they need to be successful. I was still fighting imposter syndrome. I felt like it was almost like this is getting a little too easy. Like this is making life a little too easy. And I want to put my feet down as a mainstay somewhere and show people that this is my life's work. This is not just a way to make a buck. And sometimes I feel like when people overscale the remote side of things, it can come off overly salesmanish, like it's a catch-all. And my mission was never to be that type of person. I've worked with different marketers who have shown me funnel schematics and how to get people into these systems, and I'm going to help you make $30,000 in 30 days. And you're just like, but am I providing the service, or is this just elite tiered marketing? And now they're getting a homogenized program, because that's not what this is about. So being in-house does a few things. One, it gives me a daily structure. Like in the next 60 minutes, I got to be at the building because I have this 6'9", 300-pound 16-year-old coming in who wants to learn how to move better. And
sick.
So that's going to be fun. So we got that. And I now have this routine of I get in my car, I listen to my music for 20 minutes, I make my coffee. I have my own office now, which is something I weirdly always dreamed of having. I think a lot of people like dream of being a big leaguer. They dream of doing X, Y, and Z. I was one of those people that's like, I just want to own a few nice sport coats and like go to nice dinners and like feel like a grown up at some capacity, because professional baseball, it ain't it. Like you don't feel like a grown up.
Honestly, I get that. I know. I think we're laughing, but like there's a feeling of like feeling like you have your shit together that we all want to we aspirate towards, like whatever that means for you. But it's just this general thing of like I got to figure it out, right?
Right. And that's kind of what this in-house stuff is. And I've learned so much in the last few months. Like one, having the dynamic of having a limited partner who lets me rent part of the space, and he's helped invest in some of the equipment, stuff like that. And he's challenged me on some of my thoughts, and I've challenged him on my process a little bit. And so learning to collaborate with other people, it's not just me anymore. So I got a couple of coaches. One of the guys is Andrew Peters. He's been one of my close friends ever since I met him in the Angel system. He spent 5 years there. He did a lot of data and analytics stuff and pitching lessons over at the Bodome or BSF. And then my other guy that we work with, Ian Kroll, 17 years in pro ball, 7 years in the big leagues. Like it's a really nice collection of people with different houses of thought that all share the same core values. But it's been such an interesting dynamic because now it's not just me anymore. I'm responsible for navigating staff situations and relationships, and I think that was the big thing is I wanted to feel some sort of progression in my life. And minor league baseball doesn't, you either are like here flatlining or you make it to the big leagues and life is great and you're making all this money and people are treating you a certain way. And it's so volatile. You go from being somebody's passion project and you're like, oh my God, you're the next big thing. We caught lightning in a bottle to you walk three guys in an inning and now they won't even talk to you. The facility in a way was like a it was like a let's wrap it all together and build something stable. And we know that baseball development is volatile. You're going to make the most of your money in October to March, and then there's going to be that dead period when the season starts because people don't see the merit in training in season. um Sorry, itchy throat. That's why I ended up doing it. I needed to get rid of my imposter syndrome a little bit. I wanted to be a mainstay somewhere, and I wanted to be a home for some people because my brother and I did not have that. As you know, like as in our 30s, we go back in time, there might have been 2 or 3 facilities in our vicinity that actually provided anything, and there certainly was not a weight room in it. There was a couple of
Dude,
cages.
it's
Yeah, no
so
weight
crazy
rooms.
to think back. Like even for me growing up with my dad as a Division 1 baseball coach, like we had a hitting facility, but it's not like what the three of us do. Like there wasn't always someone there to be like, hey man, what's up? Like to have
Yeah,
Hmm.
an adult that like cares about you, that isn't your parent or like a grad assistant that happens to be
yes,
around at the time. Or even for us going through in like, think about when you were at the University of Minnesota, like there were 3 facilities and none of them did off-season training. They just had teams that played.
yeah,
No one was talking the game. You had to throw on your own or hit on your own. There was
yeah. My
no
God, who was it?
guidance.
It was Blizzard,
Hit dog.
Hit Dog.
Pitch to pitch was around when I was in high school, but they were just
Yeah,
getting
pitch to
started.
pitch was early.
But
Yeah,
that was it.
That was
That
it.
my memory is that those
that
three
was
were
it.
the only ones that existed
Yeah,
pre 2013.
yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
then around 2013 is when you really started to see it explode. I think TCBA was somewhere in there,
Well, I just
2012,
remember
2013. But
when the Minnesota training culture really started to take off. I remember the first off season. Wendell was telling me about the guy that had started MASH, and he was in that little annex at the cages that Ty McDevitt owned. And I
yep,
remember it was just
Yes.
like a little flat platform. Like it couldn't have
Yes.
been bigger than 700 square feet. But there was
yep,
just dudes up there training and getting after it and looking down at this like annex going down into the cages. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And now they're
Yeah.
like what MASH University or something like that. I don't know.
It's a
There's some big
huge
building.
facility, dude.
I don't know, but like
yeah,
yeah,
I don't know. But
But so
but
do you remember this?
the
Go ahead,
training
Zach.
culture has grown so much. Just people decided somewhere along the line, people decided like, oh, maybe this is something that I should probably pay money for, and it's worth the investment. And the market has grown so much just because the demand exploded as well.
yeah.
Yeah. The
Well,
first the
that's a huge
first place
thing.
I ever went to, this will hit home with you, DJ, was just outside of Chicago. It was the White Sox hitting facility. It was their off campus hitting facility, and it was literally 5 cages in a shed on the south side of Chicago. And the hitting coach at the time hung bells in the top back center of the cage because this was right when they were starting to talk like backspin, like spinning the ball and getting trajectory up into the top of the
Yeah,
cage versus hitting like hard line drives. Like they were trying to elevate the ball. And I
yeah,
remember I walked in there and my dad at the time goes, who else is doing this? And he goes, nobody. He's like, no one else has a cage. No one else has. This place had 2 squat racks, a set of dumbbells, and cages. And we're
yeah.
in there. It's like 10:30 on a Saturday night, and all the White Sox dudes are in there hitting. But of course, they're
That's
like
awesome.
in there hitting and hanging out, and there may or may not have been booze around. It was like, but the dudes were there training. It was like you could tell like they wanted to be there. There was a
Mm-hmm.
community, like you're talking about, DJ, like a home that was like their home, right? Like all the players could go there, and they had a place to be that wasn't actually part of like at US Cellular or Guaranteed Rate or whatever the fuck you want to call it.
Yeah,
It wasn't
100%.
at the actual field. It was like a home away from home, which is like when you have a facility like Zach and I get to do at Mac or like you do get to do at your facility. College guys leave or pro guys leave, and then they come back and they're like, "Oh, it's good to be back." Like to have
Yeah,
something like that value of like you come home and you're like, "Oh,
and that's a big reason why we want to do this off season too, because like
mhm.
there's this sigh of relief if you walk back into your training space where there is no punishment for not playing well. There
Yes,
is no
mhm.
reward for PRing and outside of you feeling like it was just like it's a separation of house and state. It's your job versus like your craft.
Yeah.
And It's nice to be able to walk into a building every day right now and know that you have the resources that you've picked yourself to help players move forward. But also, like, selfishly, like, I throw on the TrackMan a couple times a week.
Yeah.
You're going to have the tool
Check
there.
it
You
out.
might as well dabble. So,
Yes, for sure.
yeah, so it's really nice to have that. And I don't know what the vicinity is of everybody's facilities up in Minnesota. I know there's a large concentration in the Twin Cities area. One of the best examples that I've learned from, I met him during the COVID times. Lucas Long got me in contact with both your dad again. And again, just all the credit in the world to your dad, because I remember going to Minnetonka's field to do some live ABs. Lucas Long goes, he's like, yeah. So he's like, Coach Twangy over there. He's coaching Minnetonka. I said, did you say Twangy? And he goes like, yeah, Paul Twangy. And I was like, he's in, huh? I was like, I need to go over there and say hi. And I start walking up there, and your dad's just sitting like halfway up the seating in the in the backstop, and he looks at me, and without even skipping a beat, he goes, "DJ Snelten, is that you? How's John doing?"
That's great.
Dude, I haven't seen you since I was 13. Like, how did you even recognize me at this point?
Yeah.
And he didn't skip a beat. He knew immediately who I was, and it was just such a welcoming homecoming feeling to have somebody remember you like that, and then immediately go, how's John doing? How's your dad doing? Is he still laying down turf? And I'm like,
yeah,
I would never remember that. Like, I would never remember that. So like, I'm just like, that's such a cool, warm, welcoming feeling. He got me introduced to Jim Brower, and then I started throwing at Jim Brower's place for a little bit over at Champions Hall, and I just remember how positive and nice and how upbeat of a person he was, and I was like, that's what I want. That's what I want to do. When I open a facility someday, I want to be a positive member of this community. I don't want to be the guy that people say is a jerk, or he's an elitist, or he thinks he's better than anybody. I want to be a welcome home situation. And if I have competitors that are 20, 30 minutes down the road, which in the Chicagoland area, there's lots of buildings, you're not going to catch me negatively talking about other people. Because at the end of the day, baseball is a big enough community. Like you said, there's millions of players in the area. And there's a cost that comes with trying to be the richest man on the planet, right? You have to make some really shady moves to be that person. I refuse to be that person. I want to scale this appropriately. I don't need 100 coaches. I need 3 to 5 coaches that I trust, that they know what they're doing, that can help take care of these players, and that they're also going to be a positive impact on these players' lives. And that's the final answer as to why we opened the in-house facility. Just wanting to be a positive member of a community. It's really hard to be a member of a community when you're in the ether of the internet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you can be positive, but nobody knows who you are and where you're at, and what you're doing.
Yeah.
So
that's really well said. Yeah. What do you think, Alex? Should we wrap there? That seems like a good place to stop.
You couldn't have wrapped it up any better, DJ, man. That was perfect.
Put a bow on it, man. That was hey, thanks a ton for joining us, man. That was really great.
Thanks, brother.
Maybe we'll get a chance to do it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to. Absolutely.
Yep. Good seeing your face, DJ. We'll see you soon, man.
Yeah, it's good seeing you guys.
See you, brother.
Talk soon.